We're taking you again to the Philippines, which is located in Southeast Asia in the South China Sea.
Quarterly exams just got over at the high school, and so all the kids last week went back to their families in the villages, and this week we're heading out and we're going to spend a whole week in the villages because the kids are actually going to be teaching out there, so they're taking the place of the actual teachers. It's kind of a training program that we have here to start helping the students to be able to learn how to take the responsibility of feeling comfortable in a classroom. So we packed everything in this little van and started out at 4 o'clock this morning, and we're heading out here in about 10 minutes.
Our Layman Ministries 3 boat is the life connection to the remote villages where we have schools. The only other way to get to these villages is a 6-hour hike over Mount Calaviti, all in various directions depending on the village you want to go to. Over the years we've had different boats, but this one is the biggest and the best of them all. Soon we were all loaded and setting sail. Days like this do not give an honest representation of what the South China Sea can be like. Today it's calm, smooth, with little wind or waves, but at other times there can be 12 to 15 foot swells, pounding waves with gale-forced winds blowing water over the entire boat. It's days like that you don't want to be out in the boat. The boat ride is a good time for Jim Webb, our Layman Ministries Philippines project coordinator, and I to catch up on the project. We're headed from Mamburao to the village called Binawangan. It takes about 4 hours to get there by boat. This village is on the coastline at the base of Mount Calaviti, with a river flowing by one side. Soon as we get the boat tied off, we start unloading all the passengers and cargo. Calm days like this make unloading relatively easy, but when they're big waves, wow, it's super hard and even dangerous to unload. The student missionaries, teachers, and the kids are always excited to see Jim when he arrives. Years ago, when the boat would arrive, the children would all go and hide. Their fears are now gone.
This new boat's pretty amazing. When we left the port at Mamburao this morning, it was all the way down to the words on the side. It was really riding low in the water because it has 1.2 tons of steel on there and 106 sacks of cement. So it's like a huge amount of weight, plus all the supplies for the villages, plus there was 12 or 13 passengers on board. So this new boat's really critical to our operations here, and it's really proven to be a workhorse. This is actually only the second time it's been out after it got swept out to sea and was damaged really bad. We're running a new rebuild engine right now too. So you can see all the cement here. It's like a huge amount of weight this thing carries.
Everyone does their part to get the supplies up to the school campus. Marie, one of our longer-term missionaries, was busy dealing with a student that had a bad cut in his leg. Marie is from the U.S. and has a heart for medical missionary work.
Missionary life here in Binawangan goes from being a teacher to a parent to a doctor to a cook.
Actually, it can be anywhere. It's not in the mission what you would think as Africa or Philippines or somewhere remote, like in remote places, but missionary life can be anywhere.
As missionary, you have to be well-rounded. Yeah.
To everything there is in America, no difference, except we have the luxury of being in the jungle.
You know how to do manual labor instead of teaching. You should know how to do carpentry and anything that any other things that needs to be done.
And all the challenges, let's not forget that. But it's the challenges that makes us better missionaries here, because we are here for one purpose and one purpose only, is to serve God through taking care of the children He has.
Romel do in English.
When Jim comes to the village, he's communicating with the teachers about school, tests, problem children, and answering questions. This is a time where the teachers can share their problems, both personal and dealing with the school and the village.
You know that he is the son of Tatay Jerry, Tito?
Yes. These are the grades for the first periodical, which is like first quarter exams from two of Daryl's students. One, we had tremendous problems with the young man last year, reference attitude. And he's showing me his grade 3 math test. He scored 98 on. And this young lady in a science, grade 2 science,
Who's
scored
a dropout last year?
who was a
Ali
dropout
scored
last year,
student.
scored 99. So we can't give up.
Early the next morning, the staff and our high school students come together for prayer, worship, and orientation, especially today, as this is the first day of student teaching. The high school students will get a first-hand experience of what it's like to be an actual teacher. The students always arrive early at the school to help clean up the campus grounds. All the children carry responsibilities. Also note how clean the children are. They all bathe before coming to school. And at the school they often get fed a morning meal if their parents are up in the mountains. And they do other things like brush their teeth. Before classes start, the students have a flag-raising ceremony. This morning, there are special instructions given regarding the high school students teaching many of the classes this week. After this, they're all dismissed to go to their individual classes.
Okay?
This is your typical Katatubo village. The word Katatubo means indigenous, and this particular indigenous tribe is the Orion tribe. I remember when we first started coming here 22 years ago, things haven't changed that much in the village, but they're a little bit better. But the kids were like little animals, honestly. They had a glossed over look on their eyes, and they were terribly afraid of us. But now the kids are really opening up. We have kids going on to high schools. But this is the way that they live. The Orion tribe is basically a nomadic tribe. And as you notice right now, this village is like a ghost town. There's nobody here because they're up doing their rice harvesting in the mountains right now. That means the kids are here in their houses by themselves, taking care of themselves, getting ready for school, taking their baths, brushing their teeth. In fact, they do a lot of that right up at the mission house. But this kind of gives you an idea where these kids are coming from. These are not, quote, Filipinos. These are indigenous tribal people. And they were here long, long before the Filipino or the Malay people or the Spanish people ever came here. I've seen pictures of them from way back in the 1940s, and the 1940 pictures and the pictures of today, like we're taking today, are not all that different, but things are getting better. The progress is a slow work, but it's a blessed work too. And we have high hopes for the high school kids to be able to come back and be teachers here and be missionaries in their own village. You can see the houses, how they're constructed here. Really rough sawn lumber, and lumber is getting really scarce here to find because it's illegal actually to be cutting trees down. But the tribal people sometimes still do it, and they cut it up and they make these really crude boards to build their houses out of. And then they have this typical grass roofs on it, which I think it's called Kogan, but it keeps the places pretty cool when the sun's out. And right now it's October, and it's been unusually hot, because usually when you're here in October it's raining more and it's a lot cooler out. But it gives you an idea just to kind of see, how they live. Like, this is actually what they call their kitchen, and they burn wood and charcoal in here. And it's interesting how the native people make charcoal here. They'll cut down trees that are green, and they'll cut it up in pieces, and they'll make a big fire pit and build a fire. And then when all the coals are nice and hot and stuff, they throw a whole bunch more wood on top of it, and then cover it with banana leaves and dirt and things like that, and let it smolder for about 48 hours until it goes out. And then when they dig it up, they have this beautiful hard wood charcoal, and that's what they typically cook on for the rice cookers and such. You can see here they're cooking breakfast on the outside kitchen, and the whole family will sleep in a little house like this one right here. It's hard for some people to even imagine living this way, but our missionaries have it quite nice because we have cinder block or cement houses for them with cement floors, but a lot of these people live with dirt floors. Very, very primitive. And as we came in on the boat, you saw how this one's particular village sits right on the coast, and there's a big river here, and that big river oftentimes during rainy season floods, and they'll get big storms, and so the mouth of the river at the bay changes constantly. The river will go out this way sometimes, the river will go out that way. And my daughter actually worked in this village for 3.5 years, and she told me sometimes when they have those big storms, it's absolutely frightening.
This peaceful river can turn quickly into a raging torrent, meeting huge waves crashing in from the sea during a storm. Because of all the illegal tree cutting and the slash and burn done up in the mountains, flash flooding has become a real problem. Because the village of Binawangan is located next to the steep sides of the mountain, the village lies mostly on a flat strip of land right next to the river. This red line shows where the village's riverbank used to be and how the river has progressively eaten it away. To protect the village from further erosion, our ministry organized building large gabions to divert the water away from the banks along the village. Much of this was done by hand, with the local government providing gabion cages and even wages for the tribal members who helped. We plan to build another one of these right next to the village just to make sure we stop the erosion. To say the least, this was a huge undertaking. All the hard work of operating this project is worth it when you see these young children with their eyes sparkling, learning about God, and getting the basic educational skills they need.
15, correct. Multiplied by... I am Sarina Benosa. I came from Pangasinan in Region 1. In the biggest island of the Philippines, Luzon. And I find it very challenging but fun with the students and with their diverse cultures.
About by 6. 12, 10, 24, 30. 7. Ready, get set. Okay, skip count by 7. Okay, ready, get set.
24, 32, 32, 40, 48, 26, 26.
His name is Fearless Fox. So, fearless. What's the first sound that you can hear? Okay, try. There. And then try to do both of you. Again, F. F. Okay, again. Let's try to do it.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning and we're loading up the boat right now in total darkness to go over to Agbaliti from, what's the name of this place?
Binawangan.
Binawangan, yeah. We're tired. But we're going in a small native boat, so we're wrapping all the bags and everything up inside plastic and then grain or rice bags. Hopefully the ocean's not going to be too rough this morning so that we don't get everything all wet, including ourselves.
They said it will be.
We were very thankful that the seas were relatively calm that morning as we navigated around the tip of the island of Mindoro on our way to the remote village of Agbaliti.
This is the village of Agbaliti. I first came here around 1994, 1995, so that was like about 22, 23 years ago. We hiked over the mountains by Pinyabayanan over to here, and it was actually a lot thicker back then, and there was only just a small group of these nipa huts down by the ocean. Somebody previous to us coming here had carved out in the forest over there a small little area where they started building a small Adventist church. And that was kind of like the beginning of our endeavor to try to come to this area. And over the next couple of years we came here and we secured some land up there and where the current mission house and school and everything is at, and we built a school here. And a lot of changes. If you look over top of this village, looking at it from the air down, you'll see that it's actually a pretty sprawling community now, and there's a lot of houses here. It's actually like a small town. It's actual good-sized village. And some people have moved in and they started a little store over there, and you're hearing generators running during the day. And we've had some real blessings and some real challenges in this village over the years, and we've realized that it's going to take probably a whole generation to start to change the way things are as far as the thinking and the cleanliness and the hygiene and such with the people in this village. My wife came here a number of years ago with my youngest daughter Nacelle and taught here for almost 7 months. In fact, all my daughters at one time or another have come here to the Philippines project. My daughter Carissa actually went over and was in Binawangan and kind of was one of the pioneers in that village over there, and I think she taught for a while in Pinyabayanan too. And then my daughter Tricia came here and spent one of her summer out from the school year coming here and helping Jim and Moni. But there's a lot of challenges here in a village like this, and now we're starting to see a lot of these kids move on to the high school, and we have a really good attendance. I think they said they have 53 kids in school here this year, and a lot of young children, and we have good teachers here. But you know, as a community starts to grow, these people are like a semi-nomadic people, and the whole idea of starting to establish homes and staying in an area to have their kids in school has been a real challenge, because the parents want to kind of migrate around and live up in the mountains, and that makes it difficult for their kids to attend school. So a lot of the people have actually started to congregate like in villages like this one because of the school, and the parents still leave and go way up into the mountains and take care of their highland rice, but they leave their kids here unattended, taking care of themselves, and some of them are pretty young and they have to feed themselves and such. And so sometimes our teachers are helping feed the kids and stuff because they come to school hungry.
When we arrived, the school was just about to start. We have a beautiful campus and have recently built more classrooms and staff housing. We are making the newest buildings completely termite-proof and even cyclone-proof using cement and tin. We have 5 classrooms to accommodate the various age groups. The children start their day with proper hygiene. They all brush their teeth, and each one is required to come to school in clean clothes and bathe. Believe me, getting them to comply with this has been a huge undertaking, but now, from the years of operating these schools, we are starting to see the fruits of our labors. One teacher has some of the younger students outside preparing for class. Meanwhile, a student teacher, a teen from our high school, is starting classes with some of the other students. It's amazing to see what God has done over the years with this project. This young girl is named Lozelle. Our desire is to train these youth to become missionary teachers to their own tribe.
And they also take care of the plant from God. So now
I refer to this place as the Joel Marshall House. It's named after Joel Marshall, of course, who was a missionary here with Layman Ministries for about 4 years. Right before he went back to Australia, which is where he was from, he built this place, and I remember being here and helping him do some of the finish carpentry on it. After a couple years back in Australia, he had the missionary bug, and he decided he just couldn't be content with living in Australia, so he joined up with Layman Ministries project in Vanuatu with Dr. Turnbold. They're both Australians and worked out really good for that, and he stayed there for about 2 years, and he was on some of our videos in Vanuatu. And then he went back to Australia again, and then he came back here, and the reason he came back here was twofold. One is he wanted to come back to the Philippines. He had a lot of great memories here. But there was also a former co-worker that he worked with that was still working here in this village of Agbaliti, and he wanted to marry her. And he had the total blessing of myself and my wife and Jim and Moni Webb. And they were married. They worked here for that 1 year, and then they went back to Australia. And she's getting citizenship right now. And after they get their citizenship thing taken care of for Mildred, they're planning on coming back and working with Layman Ministries in one of our projects, most likely here in the Philippines.
That evening, we headed out to the village to have children's meetings with some of the village children. This is a great way to bond with the village parents and with the kids that do not attend school. The songs and stories went well on into the night.
Opo, sasama ako. Sandali lang po. At kinuha niya ang kanya.
We were up before daylight the next morning, and at the crack of dawn, we were on another small boat headed to the village of Pinyabayanan, where we would spend Sabbath. Our school campus is located on a small natural harbor at the base of Mount Calaviti. When we arrived that Friday morning, The staff and student teachers were just starting their morning worship and staff meeting.
My name is Sophie Spannlang and I am from Austria. I've been here now for almost 3 months, and yeah, it's been very nice so far, but of course there are also a lot of problems that appear because the environment is so different. The biggest, of course, is the culture. Culture is very different here. People just have a different style of communicating with each other, but also the temperature it's very hot, and of course there are not so many comfortable things. In general, the luxury, but I think this is not really a problem for me because I was really used to go camping, to go outside, and that's why I also like to be here, because this style of living is very simple, but at the same time it's very enjoyable.
Today's a special Sabbath. We're having a baptism with 8 people. A couple of the people who are getting baptized are former students of ours that made it most of the way through high school, and then they decided they didn't want to continue on. They came back to the village and got married. We were always really concerned about them, but now several years later they've made a commitment to want to get baptized. And there's another lady who is also a wife of a public school teacher here in the area, and she's had just an amazing conversion experience. I guess she was gambling and not taking care of her kids. There was a lot of things going on. Total change in her life. And now she's making a commitment for Christ today too. So they're going to have the baptism down here at the ocean.